great honor, a great joy to be this evening, together with you at the eve of the great feast of the meeting of the Lord in the temple. And particularly in this church of St. Sava's, which is dedicated to the saint, whose name I also bear, and who is the great pride of all of us, particularly the Serbian Orthodox Church and wherever we live throughout the world. I'm coming from Decani Monastery. It is called Visoki Decani because it's pretty much high, so probably a little bit higher than this church, but not that big as this church. And it is decorated in beautiful frescoes. It was built in the 14th century, so probably, hopefully, in 2027 we will be celebrating 700 years since the monastery was founded by King Stefan Janjic, the son of King Milutin and the father of Tsar Dusan. So that is one of our most important medieval holy sites, and it is located in Kosovo and Metohija, actually the western part of what is called today Kosovo, which we call Metohija, which is a Greek word which means monastery estate. So from the earliest times in the Middle Ages, there were lots of monastery estates in that area, and we still have monasteries there like Patriarchate of Peć, which is the historical center of our church, which is the Stavropedjic monastery, which belongs directly to the Patriarch. There we have tombs of our archbishops and patriarchs from the 13th century onward. Decani Monastery was a royal endowment, so it is a royal monastery, and there we have incorruptible relics of King Stefan Janjic from the 14th century, which is a great consolation, and for us gives us lots of strength and resilience in these difficult times. So it's thanks to God's grace and thanks to the prayers of King Stefan that we have managed to survive as a monastery for 700 years, despite of 500 years of Ottoman rule, Balkan Wars, First World War, Second World War, difficult period between 1945 and of course the period, the latest period of the Kosovo War in 1999 and afterwards. These 23 last years were also particularly difficult because there was a war in Kosovo in 1999 and lots of our people had to leave Kosovo under various forms of pressure. So 150,000 people, Serbs, left Kosovo, they fled Kosovo and Metohija, and very few of them have returned so far. But the monasteries remain, the churches remain. So we have around 98,000 Serbs still living in Kosovo and Metohija today, and we have our bishop, and I'm very honored to convey to you his blessings and greetings from our Bishop Theodosie, who was the abbot of Decani Monastery since 1992, when he and I and later other monks came to Decani Monastery as a new, then younger generation of monks, and now, he became the diocesan bishop of the Raška and President, which covers Kosovo, Metohija, and the Raška region. And he's now in Gračanica Monastery, and I became an abbot in 2010. So we are a community of 17 monks and novices. Actually, there's only one novice now, Brother Božo, who will join us shortly. And we are actually living as any monastic community. We have various monastic obediences. We have also a farm with cattle, with sheep, goats. We produce wine. We have a winery in Velika Hoća, which is an old monastery estate, a little bit warmer part of Metohija, more south, near Prizren, so where the climate is more favorable for grapes. And so yesterday on St. Trifon's Day, actually it was today here, but yesterday there, Bishop Theodosia served in our vineyard chapel, and he began a great pruning. This is the time when the abbot or the bishop usually starts symbolically pruning the grapes. So now we are getting ready for the new season. So our Father Kirillov, he is working there, and he is making wine. We also make various kinds of liquors. And of course, at the monastery, we also produce cheese, goat cheese, cow cheese, and of course we have milk, yogurt, and various products which we sell at the monastery shop, and some quantities of wine which we manage to transfer to Central Serbia. We can also sell there on the market as well. So the most of our products we sell at our monastery, but we have a number of pilgrims who are coming. So 2 days ago there were 150 people who joined us at the monastery at the liturgy. So it's interesting that now we don't have our people living around the monastery in Decani municipality, but we have lots of pilgrims who are coming from Central Serbia, Montenegro. Now they also allow arrival of our pilgrims and brothers and sisters from Republika Srpska and other parts of Bosnia and Herzegovina where they live. So this will be also very good. We also have, during the summer, we have also lots of tourists coming to the monastery. So it's a well-known place. But you can imagine that it's such a renowned, very famous World Heritage Site, which is also the UNESCO World Heritage Site, is under the constant military protection for 24 years. So we are protected by the peacekeepers, which are NATO-led peacekeepers, mostly Italians, but there are other contingents as well, and it's now 24th year of their protection. And the protection is constant. So 24/7, we have 5 checkpoints with dozens of soldiers around the monastery and military patrols with soldiers with long barrel weapons. Why that? Because why is that happening? Because the monastery, as one of the most important Serbian sites, Serbian Orthodox sites in Kosovo, has been targeted 4 times by Kosovo-Albanian extremists. And they attacked the monastery by mortar grenades. By the miracle of God, none of these grenades hit the inner courtyard of the monastery, and none of them has made any significant damage, nor has any of these grenades hurt anybody. So this is a miracle of King Stefan, who is also a great miracle worker. And of course, we had other difficulties, various kinds of graffiti, and also there was a threat in 2016 when one ISIS-affiliated group was armed. They were armed, they were arrested in front of the monastery by our peacekeepers, which shows that the monastery is a kind of stumbling block for those extremist Kosovo Albanians. I always say extremists because not all of them think like that. There are also honest people, but they usually don't have courage to speak up. And this is all the consequence of the attempts of those extremists, Kosovo Albanians, who would like Kosovo Serbs to leave completely Kosovo and Metohija, who would like to appropriate our churches and monasteries and proclaim them as ethnic Albanian heritage. Of course, we don't mind that we are visited also by Kosovo Albanians. We also have visitors, Orthodox Christians from Albania. There are no Orthodox Albanian-speaking people in Kosovo, but there are in Albania, and they're always very welcome. There are also people of other religions. We're visitors from Korea, from Japan, from all countries, from Europe, from the United States. And the monastery is open for everybody, but of course we are insisting that our identity is fully protected and preserved, that we are a Serbian Orthodox monastery, that all our monasteries and churches in Kosovo and Metohija are preserved as the heritage of our church, regardless of what's politically happening, because we cannot always influence what is happening politically, but we are always insisting that the fact that 24 years after the war, when there is no rule of law and order, when there is no protection of basic human and religious rights, and also respect for the court decisions which are in our favor, some of them are in our favor and they're not respected, and also there is also disrespect of laws. In such conditions it is absolutely absurd to support the attempts of Kosovo Albanians. And of course this is, according to our church understanding and to our people, this is the part of Serbia according to the international law, Resolution 1244 of United Nations. But of course this is also the majority Albanian speaking territory now. And there are not so many Serbs living there. So it is very important to continue the dialogue, how we can make the life of all people better, how people can live in peace, and hopefully some form of life together will be found in future. But in order to achieve that, we have to do everything to protect the holy sites, our heritage. As many of our cemeteries were either very seriously damaged or completely desecrated and destroyed. And after the war, regrettably, in the presence of 40,000 NATO-led peacekeepers, 150 Serbian Orthodox churches were either completely destroyed or seriously damaged. This is absolutely unheard of, and this only shows what kind of difficulties we are facing. But of course, despite all of that, our people are strong. They want those who decided to stay in their homes, who are deeply rooted in Kosovo and Metohija, they want to stay despite all these difficulties. Although we've had lots of incidents recently, there was an attack on children during the Padnjak celebration just before the Christmas, and one child was hurt by weapons. Another young man was also injured, and we've had also various other incidents and burglaries in churches and damages in our cemeteries and so on. So I just wanted to tell you some of the things we are facing. Of course, you might be reading about all that in newspapers and actually now on the internet. There's so much about it, but we are not intimidated by all that. We strongly believe that God, with the prayers of King Stefan and all saints who lived and prayed and stayed in Kosovo, that we will manage to persevere, to stay, and to continue witnessing our faith and our tradition, ready to share it with others, but completely resolute to preserve it as Serbian Orthodox heritage. Like you also are proud of your heritage and your churches, monasteries in this country, where you enjoy protection. I could see outside an American and Serbian flag and the flag of the state of Wisconsin. For instance, if we would put a Serbian flag, fly a Serbian flag at our monastery, that would be a serious problem. So we are not flying any flag, but we have our church there, which is enough for itself. But that shows what difficulties we are facing, and that the life of the people, particularly our children there, is very much difficult and very much different from what you have here. So it's very important to have solidarity with all our people who live throughout the world, particularly in this country. So these are just some short remarks, and of course it would be much easier for me if I could answer your questions if you ask them directly. If you have some concrete questions, I would be very happy to answer. Thank you.
Feel free, raise your hand.
Father, welcome to Milwaukee. Yes, I'm Dragomir from English. The last few months, there's been, the border has been shut down between Serbia and Kosovo. It's been blocked.
Yes.
Is that correct? Do you have any comments on that, or more specifics on that?
Yes, there are constantly problems, particularly actually in North Kosovo, Serbia, we mostly speak about North and South Kosovo, although they are not formally separated, but there is a majority of Serbs live in South Kosovo, but they're scattered in different parts of South Kosovo where they live non-Kosovo-Albanians. In the north, they live more compactly, but they're not the majority population. And there is really so much Kosovo-Albanian control in the north, and the Kosovo-Albanian authorities try to impose certain regulations to insist on Kosovo registration plates in the north and to forbid Serbian registration plates. Also, they decided to even, at a certain stage, they said that they would seize the cars if the registration plates are not changed, and on cars. And also, there were a few cases of arbitrary arresting of people for no reason, actually, and they're still kept in detention without any clear reason why they're there. So, as a response to this injustice, Serbs in North Kosovo decided to leave Kosovo institutions. So there were 500 policemen there, so the majority of police were Serbs in the north, so they left Kosovo police, and also judges from the local courts, and also from the administration. So now there is a kind of a queue there. And at some stage, Serbs also there in the north blocked the roads with big trucks, and also people would spend all day there. They would camp near these trucks, so that this was a sign of a peaceful opposition, so this was nothing violent. Nobody was shot, there was no shooting. Of course, they were very unjustly accused by Kosovo Albanian authorities that they are criminals and that they are led by some criminal groups, but nobody was hurt, and this was a demonstration of opposition to the behavior of Kosovo authorities. Of course, our church supports our people, and Bishop Theodosia visited Mitrovica several times. He served the service there and he spoke to the people. Of course, it is not up to the priests and monks to be at the barricades, but these were not really barricades, the roadblocks rather. But our bishop and we were in the churches, and we would pray and call people to keep calm, not to allow any provocations, and they behaved with dignity. So nobody was hurt, and thank God no incident happened. But this of course led to closing of these, as we call them, boundary passes, because this is something which we don't really consider a border, because that would be a different state. And so these boundary passes between central Serbia and the province of Kosovo and Metohija, they were closed, and they remained under the control of Kosovo Albanian police, who were also protected by international peacekeepers who were constantly trying to keep both sides apart so that there is no conflict. Unfortunately, we've had several similar incidents which flared suddenly, and of course there is always a danger that if there is a direct clash, there could be some injured people, there could be casualties. And in 2004 we had a case when completely wrongly Serbs were accused of death of 3 Kosovo Albanian children who actually accidentally lost their lives in the river. There was a flood of the river Iber, and amazing, I mean, they accused Serbs that Serbs were responsible for their death. And of course, later it was proved that it was just a lie. But then they began massive riots against Serbs, which led to destruction of 35 churches in 2 days and expulsion of additional 4,000 Serbs, mostly elderly people, from those areas where Serbs live, a scattered minority. So it was very difficult. These March riots 2004 remained in our memory as a great wound, and we really would not like something like that to happen, and it will also be a great humiliation for the NATO troops. So there is a firm determination, I think, that no incidents should be allowed. But we are insisting, okay, give us normal conditions of life. Of course, we are not taking part in negotiations between Belgrade and Pristina. These are direct negotiations between authorities of Serbia and authorities of the self-proclaimed Kosovo institutions in Pristina. But of course what we are insisting on as a church is that our people, our holy sites must be preserved, and we should be left alone and live peacefully. We should have normal access to our holy sites. We don't always have it. Some churches are completely inaccessible, and if we try to visit the ruins of these churches, there could be an incident with local Kosovanians, and also to ensure for the Serbs their normal health protection. In our clinics, we have Serbian-run clinics in our enclaves and the regional hospital in Mitrovica, which are supported by the Serbian government, and also our schools, where children can learn our language and normally follow the curriculum of the Serbian education system. So this is all very important for us, and this is what we are standing for. But of course, if Kosovo self-proclaimed independence would be accepted fully, God forbid, accepted by Serbia, which we hope and strongly believe would never happen, that would really leave our people at stake, particularly in these very precarious conditions for the everyday life. So we have explained it many times. I mean, when internationals ask me, well, why are you so much against independent Kosovo? I say, well, you know, I sometimes make a comparison. If somebody would say that, okay, tomorrow Kosovo will be the part of the United States, I guess many people would not be so alarmed, because we have so many of our people. Actually, in the Chicago area, we have more Serbs than in Kosovo and Metohija. And you have normal conditions of life here for the education of your children and other conditions. But if we are supposed to live in a territory where we can only expect further ethnic pressures, and while the Kosovoan authorities are insisting to make an ethnic clean Albanian territory, of course we have every reason to be alarmed by independent Kosovo. So this is the point which we very often mention and say, that we cannot build. They now say, okay, you signed just an agreement, they say to Belgrade, and we will agree about other things in the run. It's like building a house, you know, like building first the roof, and then, okay, we'll decide about the walls and the foundations later. But no, the foundations of every society are the human and religious life, rights of the people. This is something, and the rule of law and order, this is something that is sacrosanct in any democracy, and unfortunately Kosovo is everything but not a democracy. So that is the reason why we remain deeply concerned, and that is what we are saying to the internationals who come and visit us. Yes. I also have some questions from the kids, which were given to me. Kako je danas živjeti na Kosovu, kakvi su životni uslovi, how is to live in Kosovo today, what are conditions of life? I think I've answered this quite a lot. How children live, what's the difference in living children in Kosovo and elsewhere? Yes, Stella, please.
Can you tell us about your personal journey?
Beg your pardon?
Your personal journey from being a child to becoming a monk.
Nisam razumio sve se dobro.
Malo vašu biografiju.
Oh, my biography. Well, I don't have an impressive CV actually. I was born in December 7, 1965, sorry, in Dubrovnik, but I grew up in Trebinje, which is 25 kilometers away. I was born in Dubrovnik because it was the better conditions for the better hospital at that time, and it's only 25 kilometers away. So that was former Yugoslavia, so I usually say I was born in a country which technically does not exist any longer. And I grew up in Trebinje, and I finished there my elementary and secondary school. Then I went to Belgrade, and I studied English language and literature. I was also attending classes at the theological school in Belgrade, but I didn't formalize this education, so I didn't become a theologian. But I visited very often Father Tadej, Vitovnica, and some other elders. I was very interested in monasticism. So it came to my mind and my heart the idea to devote myself to God. And I joined the community of Crna Reka Monastery, Black River Monastery, which is just north from Kosovo. It's actually south from Belgrade, of course. And I spent there 3 blessed years as a novice, and then I became a monk in 1991. I joined the community in 1989. Then it was decided that the brotherhood at Decani Monastery needs to be rejuvenated. So they needed young monks. They didn't have any younger monks coming. So the bishop decided that then Father Theodosie and me and a few more brothers who are no longer at Decani Monastery should join the Decani Brotherhood. So I came to Decani in 1992. And since then, I've been there. First as a deputy of my abbot, Father Theodosie, and then when he became a bishop, I became an abbot. So that's all. Nothing very spectacular, but living in Kosovo is a great honor for me, and also it's a great responsibility, because responsibility that generations of monks preserved such a wonderful monastery and a church, and now we are in a situation when we are surrounded, unfortunately, by some individuals and groups who don't think as well and who wanted to destroy the monastery and even to expel us from the monastery. That's why we are the only Christian, the only religious site, I would say, in Europe, which has 24/7 military, not police protection. So this is very, very interesting, and one of the most beautiful ones, and also the site of UNESCO Heritage Site, but under 24/7 military protection. So you can imagine how absurd it is. It's such a beautiful place, which is important for the world culture and history, and also a monastic site is in such a danger. And what is even more paradoxical, during the war, our monastery gave protection to people who suffered. You know, in all wars, who suffers the most? Innocent people on all sides. And there were also Albanians who suffered, there were Serbs who suffered, there were Roma people who suffered, and others. And we opened the doors of the monastery and we sheltered the Serbs there, and from that area also 200 Kosovo Albanians found also refuge at our monastery, and also a few dozen of Roma people who later left, and they were evacuated to North Kosovo. So we try to help people, and we also organize humanitarian assistance with the help of International Orthodox Christian Charities. So we've had a great cooperation with Mr. Dean Triandafilo from Baltimore, and this organization is very important because it represents all Orthodox Christians from the American continent, and it works with first with SCOBA, and then of course with the Assembly of Canonical Orthodox Bishops of America. So this is a kind of Orthodox Caritas, and they helped a lot the monastery, but also they distributed a number of humanitarian packages which we later redistributed to the people who had various needs and who suffer. And in the meantime, we have also continued humanitarian activity, helping the poor people, people in need. We take also care of one monastery with 2 elderly nuns in Jarkovica, which was destroyed in March 2004. And so now it's completely rebuilt. A number of churches which were destroyed have been rebuilt and repaired. And this was done particularly thanks to the Council of Europe, which organized this process of reconstruction. So our seminary in Prizren, which was founded in the 1887, I think, yes, and it was one of the oldest, definitely the oldest church in students there. This is a secondary school, Bogoslovia seminary, and we have kids there, and they're preparing themselves further on for Methodist. Some of them also continue their education here with Libertyville, and some went to Greece, and some became priests. Decani Monastery is also a place, a monastery where many important people are associated with. For instance, our patriarch Porphyria, who was here St. Sava's Day, he became monk at Decani Monastery in 1986. So he got his tonsure in Decani Monastery. So he's also one of our brotherhood in a way. So he has deep love and respect for our monastery, and so also several bishops of our church as well who became monks at Decani Monastery. So that's the story about the monastery, which of course I would very much like you to visit if you have an opportunity to come. Yes, please.
That was my next question. How safe is it, or possible to go down and visit the monastery?
I think it is safe enough because we have lots of visitors, lots of pilgrims coming, and Father Peter told me just when we were here 2 days ago there were 150 visitors and pilgrims in one day, and they attended the Holy Liturgy, which was really amazing. And so it is quite safe for the visitors now. So these tensions in North Kosovo, which we had, have now abated a little bit, so there is no tension there. We normally also traveled, when we traveled, Brother Bojo, who is there now, has joined us, and me, when we traveled to Belgrade to take a plane to the United States, we actually passed through North Kosovo, so it's peaceful, safe. We have people during the summer, for instance, who come with Serbian registration plates, with Serbian documents from Montenegro. Lots of people come. Probably the most of visitors are from Montenegro, because really Montenegro is very close, and it's safe enough. So I don't think there is a reason to worry, particularly if there is no current tension like it was in December, when it was a little bit more difficult. But generally, it's safe for the people to come and to visit the monasteries. Yes. Izvolite.
What does growing in love for others look like in the face of such persecution?
What does
growing for love,
Yes.
growing in love for
Yes,
others
growing in love, yes.
look like for others in the face of such persecution?
It is a challenge. It is a challenge indeed, because it's very easy to love those who love you, but it's very difficult and hard to love those who persecute you. But of course, we know, first of all, that not all Kosovo Albanians are aggressive and they don't wish us evil. We help many of them, and recently there's been one man from Decani town who dared. I say dared because some of them are afraid from their political leaders and extremists to speak up. But who spoke how the monastery saved his life during the war, how he found refuge. He was personally very much grateful and thanked the monastery, which was very nice of him. And of course, this is what gives us strength also to know that majority of people don't hate us and don't have anything against us. But of course, those people who did evil things and who probably wish us something evil, we can only say with the Lord, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they are doing. Because people who do evil, who do evil acts, they're not doing that consciously. They're in a kind of delusion. And that's why we don't have to respond to the evil by evil behavior. We have to respond always with love and care. Hopefully, a ray of sunshine or grace of God might touch their heart and they might change. So this is our way. And I've seen so many people got changed, some politicians who come very arrogantly with lots of prejudice against our people, and when they come to Decani Monastery, they suddenly change in the presence of the relics of King Stefan, the beautiful atmosphere of the frescoes of the church, which is radiant with grace of God and beauty, and they get change. And of course, later when they sit down, when they taste our rakia, when they taste our products, it's even more when they see our hospitality. So that is our mission, to try to respond to all what is happening by bearing witness to what's going on, but at the same time trying to show love and understanding for others, but standing firmly for our identity and our values. And that is what we are doing. But it's not easy, of course, but it is our cross. Yes, please.
Parallel question. In the face of this persecution, how does this impact the faith of, how does this impact the faith of the Serbian community of Kosovo? Has it caused faith to grow? Do you see attendance and intensity of faith amongst the Serbians growing? Or are people falling from the faith that you see amongst your Serbian folks?
I have not clearly heard, if Father could just help me.
Are you seeing in the Serbian community also, are you seeing greater faith amongst the Orthodox? Are you seeing greater attendance? Are you seeing greater faithfulness? Or are people falling from faith? What direction is the persecution taking people?
Yes, I generally think that people who go through suffering, their faith gets stronger. Because when one lives in a situation where there are no difficulties, you very often tend to forget God and somehow be dragged away from thinking about God, from prayer, from participating in holy services. But actually, in Kosovo, we could see that the church remains together with its people, with her people, and the attendance of our churches. I think this is also one of the questions. The attendance of our churches is really on a very good level. We have lots of people who come for the feast days and Sundays, for the services, and also lots of children. And this is quite impressive. Of course, we have an increase of attendance of church services, also in those areas which passed through the war. Particularly, I know for sure in Herzegovina, where I come from, it's lots of people are there in church, and I hope also in other parts of Republika Srpska, and also in Montenegro. Although there was no war there, but there's another difficulty there. There is an attempt to change the identity of that people, to tell them that they have nothing to do with Serbs, they were occupied by Serbs, that Montenegrins and Serbs are two completely different nations, which is absolutely absurd. I mean, Montenegrins are very proud Serbs, but they are Montenegrins, like we are Herzegovians, we are Serbs. Kosovan Serbs, we are Serbs. Serbianci are Serbs from Serbia, so Ličani are Serbs from Lika, but we are all Serbs, yeah. So it's not a problem. But they've went through lots of difficulties. You probably heard about this Litije, about these processions which were organized by our people and our clergy in Montenegro, and they managed to preserve their holy sites and oppose that regime there of Milo Đukanović, which is very unfriendly, very aggressive towards the church. So this is also high attendance. And in Kosovo and Metohija as well, people gather very much at services, because this is very often the place where they can get together. They don't have much of a social life, because many of our communities are very poor and they don't have, some other opportunities to get together. So when we have particularly some celebrations, we have lots of people still coming. So I think we have the same in Serbia. Just escaped my mind. But the essence is that without suffering, there is no really true faith and reliance on God. So of course, We must, wherever we live, if there is even no suffering, and nobody can say that there are no problems, we can always keep God in our heart and our minds. And that will help us, that will not preserve us from difficulties in our life, but it will very much help us go through these difficulties and all the temptations of our life in a much easier way, in a more responsible way, and that will not take away our faith. And if we completely rely on God's will, and on the other hand do what depends on ourselves. So this is very much linked to difficulties. When they happen, we become more mature in our faith. So that's why the church has always been persecuted in history, and wherever the church suffered in history, in Russia during the Bolshevik times, or during the Roman Empire persecutions, the church was growing. So there was a saying that the blood of martyrs was the seed of Christians. So there the Christian faith flourished. So that's why we must not be afraid from those who want to kill our body, but we have to be very much worried and aware of those who want to take our soul. And that is, of course, the various temptations of this world which want to take us away from God, from our tradition, from the values which we have preserved for centuries, which those who first came here and built the church in 1912, so the first church I heard was built here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, in 1912. So it's amazing how those people had faith and they built their church. And they would be very much happy, those people, if they could see, and they could see probably from heavens how beautiful church we have now. So that's one reason more that you should stick to the church more, to bring more kids to the church, to preserve the language, to preserve. I'm speaking in English because most of you can understand me like that. Ja mogu isto da govorim na srpskom jeziku, mnogi će razumeti sigurno i treba da govorimo naš jezik, ali i engleski jezik je jezik Božji. The English language is also the language of our church, so it doesn't matter really. But of course it's važno je da imamo i da čuvamo i naš jezik i našu tradiciju i naše običaje, naš folklor, naše pesme, naše igre i tako. I to smo, sad smo vidjeli, verovatno ste vi ovdje imali za Svetosavsku večer, verovatno neku predstavu, neku svečanost. Mi smo imali isto tako lepu svečanost u Washingtonu kod oca Vasilija Ranića. Oh yes, this is an English group, sorry. So I say, well, it's important, of course, as much as possible to help children learn more the language if possible, at least to keep tradition. Of course, you're living here in this country, and of course it's essentially important that you are using English normally, and because this is the place where you live, where your children will grow up and they need to have education and everything here. But what I wanted to say, it's important to cherish our traditions, to take care of also preserving our tradition of dances, folklore dances, folk dances, also singing. We participate in a beautiful celebration of St. Sava in Washington, St. Luke's parish, Father Vasily Janjic, who was our host in Washington, D.C. And I guess that you also had a beautiful celebration here. I saw some photos with the patriarch who's here. It was really magnificent. And so this is something that keeps us together, that gives us the sense of belonging to one community, the Church of God, and the tradition of the Serbian Orthodox Church. So. Izvolite. What will happen unfortunate agreement or whatever about independence of Kosovo. Yes, we are in Istanbul. On the same page. With the other end, whether the government there and the government in the United States are aligned in what they're doing at the same page. Well, really, these are some political questions, of course. I can only guess, some of them that postavim, I can only guess what might happen. I personally believe that, I explained, I think, earlier, that what is the problem with independent Kosovo? That those people who want Serbia to recognize independence, they want ethnic clean Kosovo, which means that it would be impossible for Serbs who normally live there. And they may be obliged to respect certain kind of agreements and rule of law and rights and so on, but I'm afraid we are facing lots of unreadiness to respect what is agreed. Dakle, nalazimo dosta toga, mnogo je opasno, oni hoće etnički čisto, nezavisno Kosovo, znate. I zato ja ne mogu da zamislim da Srbija prizna nezavisno Kosovo i mislim da to sad trenutno nije. I nadam se da neće ni biti tema i u svakom slučaju to bi bila ogromna greška istorijska i odgovornost jedna pred istorijom i pred narodom, jer ipak po međunarodnom pravu ta secesija Kosova je nezakonita. So, I'm not a politician, but I can say, of course, that it's not legal according to international law for Kosovo to secede. But of course, there must be some kind of political settlement which would preserve normal life for all citizens, regardless of language and religion they have. But without that, I'm afraid even any agreement will not be respected. Bez toga nijedan sporazum ne bi poštovao. Tako da smo mi jako zabrinuti. Imamo dosta slučajeva da se ne poštuju osnovni dogovori. Recimo, ja mogu da navedem primjer, imamo na primjer odluku Ustavnog suda Kosova koja je priznala našu zemlju, 24,58 acres naše zemlje, i evo 6 godina neće da je sprovedu u delu i da upišu katastar. We are dealing also with the absence of institutional tradition there. I mean, people simply, we have one constitutional court decision. Also, we were at court for 16 years litigation over 58 acres of land, which is only a little part of 700 hectares, which is how many acres of land which was confiscated in 1946 after the Second World War. And it's now, after 16 years of litigation at the courts, we won the case. We had the decision of the Supreme Court of Kosovo, Constitutional Court of Kosovo, and it's now 7th year. Yeah. They don't recognize they don't implement the decision, so they don't want to inscribe the land in the land register. So this is one example which we very often mention. It's also found in the U.S. State Department's reports on religious rights. So, of course, there is a disagreement between politics of politicians of this country, which recognize officially Kosovo as an independent state, and Serbia regarding the status of Kosovo. But there is also agreement and understanding that society there must be based on rule of law and order, and that is something which we cannot see even 24 years after the war.
In 5 minutes, our teenagers will come in to hear about the life of teenagers.
Yes, we have some questions from children, if I can answer that.
The children will come here in 5 minutes.
Yes.
Okay. Let's just remind you, brothers and sisters, since we have only 5 minutes, then we have children for 3 minutes talking with Father Sava. Then at 7:30 we'll have adults speaking with him in Serbian. Okay? So let me just remind you, I spoke with our church president, and would never like to donate for Monastery Decani. You can do it in our office. If it is in cash, you can put it here. If you're not looking for the receipt, you know. But if you're looking for receipts, start in the office here, in the back of the church. And then you heard about life, difficulties in Kosovo. I don't need to say anything more about it, really.
as Christians are passing through this world. But we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen in the world. History is changing. We are facing lots of difficulties. There are wars. There are changing of governments and so on. But we as Christians must be ready to live everywhere with our faith and strong reliance on God. And then nothing can disappoint us. And even if we are passing through difficulties, we are strengthened by our faith in our Lord that we will stay, because the church will survive regardless of what is happening. Even the gates of Hades will not overcome the church. So we are, first of all, the church, people of God, and no matter in which country we live, it's a very beautiful saying from all Christian times, as Christians, in every country we are strangers, and in every country is our homeland. So we have to live like this, to follow the laws and the rules of every country and every society, but at the same time keep to our customs and to the commandments of the Lord, following our faith.
Thank you, Father Sava. Thank you, brothers and sisters. Once again, if you're looking to sign your write a check, please write it to St. Sava Cathedral. We'll get it all together and send one check to the monastery of like St. Sava parishioners. If you're looking personally, the receipt, we can give it to the back of the office. Thank you. God bless you. If you want to stay for Sunday in your session, you're welcome. Okay?
Thank you very much, particularly because it's a working day.